guys, we're back. Let's see who we got. All right, so chapter 12, got everybody on, kinda. We got some people that disappeared for a few days and then show up now. Hi Flavio, how are you? Let's see, I got Vanessa, I got Sandra, Anthony's in, Peter, Moses, I got Meredith, Stephen, David, Joseph, Catherine, Gil, Brian, Gary, Jane is in the house. You didn't need to call in today? All right, what else? Crystal, Chad, Sabrina, Lena's here. Okay, who else? Hi, Heather. How are you? Feeling better today? Good, good. All right. Who else? Flavio says, I know everything. I pay attention to everything. That's the difference. All right, let's see. All right, Daphne, you need to stop. Daphne, stop. Stop with the in the group, okay? I'm gonna address you today. And actually, that's how we're gonna start the class. Let's see. Just waiting for a few more people. Janice, you were asking me about YouTube. Let me know if you're on, if you have YouTube Live going. Let's see. You did? Okay. Sorry, tax season. I got really swamped with messages today, but I'll check it out, Heather. I'll check it. All right, Janice is on. Cool. So YouTube Live is working. My clients are amazing. I have a client right now that I don't do taxes anymore. I used to do tax preparation. I don't do it anymore, right? But there's still a few people that's still clinging and like, Bruno, please help me out. You got to do it, right? I have one that I've been texting all day. I ask for 3 things. The client provides 1. I ask for the 2 things that were missing plus another 1 or 2, provides 1. And we're getting there. I think by midnight, which is the deadline, I'll be able to get everything I need for the taxes to be done. So yes, I do taxes as well, tax preparation. Anyway, all right, let's see what we got. Let me address Daphne. Actually, let's see, we got 30 people. Daphne, I'll address you now. Let me see, where are you? Right there. You paying attention? You don't need to be putting me to shame on something that's misspelled on Quizlets, right? You don't need to be like, hey Bruno, you don't know how to spell, right in the group chat for 200 people to see. I'm just kidding. So the one where everybody's talking about, which is the cash deposit, it's not supposed to say valid. Vanessa, I appreciate the Webster's Dictionary definition of Khaled, but this is not DJ Khaled either. It's actually supposed to be called. It's called earnest money deposit. So I did make a mistake. I am sorry, guys. All right, I will correct it. And I appreciate, Daphne, the screenshot. I really appreciate that. Because that's the only way that I can fix. I mean, I'm putting a lot of stuff, a lot of content out there. And do I make mistakes? No, Daphne, I was just messing with you. Don't get all... but I'm putting a lot of content out there to provide to you guys. And is it possible that there's a mistake or two? Yeah, absolutely. So I count on you guys, and I really appreciate, Daphne, what you did. Like I said, always send me screenshots if there's something. I had Jonathan, he's here as well, I think, yeah. I had Jonathan also in the past send me a message regarding a YouTube video I had where I was sharing some information, and there's something that shouldn't be there in the video. He sent it to me right away. So again, the same way I'm giving you info, I appreciate all the feedback that I can get. Okay, so I will address those, Daphne. Again, really appreciate it. I will address those. Hopefully, still today I'll be able to. But what's supposed to say is called. Okay. What the book says, and I'm looking at what you posted, it's asking that it's valid. That's it. But if you look at the Quizlets, okay. Amount of deposit should be grown. Should be. Hold on, I cannot even see the whole thing. Let me look for it in Quizlets. Give me all this trouble. So I'll give you guys a tour real quick. Hold on. Okay. Quizlets. And let's see if I can get to it. It's not even there. Okay. Wow. It must have been a good day. So it's actually, she didn't even pay attention to this. It's actually something else. I got two of us. You guys see it? I always wanted to clone myself. So this is cash deposit. There you go. It's cash deposit. Sometimes referred to a good faith deposit. The amount of deposit should be agreed on by both parties and should be enough that if a contract is defaulted, the seller gets a deposit or earnest money. Okay, you're right. It's supposed to be... What was I thinking? A purchase offer without it is still valid. Okay, corrected right in front of your eyes. All right, Daphne, we're good? All right. History in the making. Everything live. If only the state exam would be would be live, right? All right, cool. Why do I feel like I got something here on the camera? Hold on. Yeah. I do. Okay. As much as technology is great, there's always something going on. All right. Perfect. Sorry guys, just one more thing and I'm gonna start right now. I'm seeing a lot of questions coming through. Okay, all right, so let's go. Let's see, let's go to the chat. And here's what we got. We got 36 people on the line, great. All right, Gil, you can see me, now you can see me. Vanessa, you're asking for me to talk about sub-agency, to review sub-agency. Well, there's a reason why I skipped it. I meant to already remove it from the highlights in the book. I skipped it, not going to talk about it. But it's just like you are sub-agent of your broker. A few years ago, it was very popular for another agency to be when they were representing, let's say, representing the buyer, they would be considered the sub-agent of the seller. So it gets really confusing. That's why nowadays we don't offer sub-agency, even though it's on the listing. When you guys eventually get to the MLS. It says transaction broker, it says buyer's broker, and then it says SA, which is sub-agent, and usually it says 0%. Like we're not paying sub-agents at all. All right, so we don't want to create that type of engagement, because what happens in sub-agency is that whatever the buyer's agent tells the buyer, the seller could be liable for it. So that's why we don't even talk about it anymore. Okay, it's in the book for you to know, but it's not addressed anymore. Mina, you asked about executed and executory contracts. Well, executed simply means we're done, we finished, we closed. That's what it is. Hold on, Newark's happening right now. Gary's dancing. Hey, I think if we put a beat to it, it might be a dope song. We'll never know. All right. So, Mina, when we talk about executed and executory contracts, executed means we closed. We concluded the sale. We got to the closing table. The seller gave the keys. The buyer gave the money. They exchanged. We finished. Executed. Executory is I put an offer. This is an example. I put an offer, but we haven't closed. Why? Because we need to do inspections. We need to get a final commitment from the mortgage company. We need to get a CO, certificate of occupancy. There's a lot of things that are pending along the way. So there's the start date, which is put an offer, and there's the end date, which is closing. So during that period of time is executory, and then we close, executed. That's all it is. Okay? Okay, next. I'm telling you, my business partner is amazing. He's at the beach and he says, in Jamaica, and he says, over here, there's no background noise. Sorry, you got a quick reminder of Newark. Ambulance, cops, right? All right, next, let's see. Uh, okay, we got that. I addressed that. Okay, Heather says she took the practice exam and got 80%. Awesome. I'm sure part of it was luck, but gave me hope. Well, here's the good news. Hopefully, you'll be lucky in the state exam as well. It doesn't matter. Like, let's say that I know somebody personally that passed just by, you know what, screw it, and started answering questions and passed. It could be. I'm not promoting that in any way, shape, or form. And actually, I recommend that you don't just give it a try and see what happens, right? Don't do that. But I think the 80% that you got is also because you're paying attention, because you're researching, because you're studying maybe. Hopefully that's that. I know Chad didn't try because we know what's happening there, right? You can't. I'm just kidding. All right. Let's see what's next. Daphne. Not at all, he says. Daphne says, can you explain printed forms? Isn't printed and typed isn't printed and typed the same thing? No. Actually, let me go here. Printed and typed. Okay, so here we go. This right here, do you see, Daphne? This right here is printed. Okay? Now, typed would be, see here where it says buyer? Wait, I just lost her. So I make sure. Daphne, do you see it? Okay. Typed would be I entered information. So I entered somebody's name. I typed it in. Okay, I know it doesn't look like type, but that's what I'm doing. So on the computer. Okay? So I typed it in. Printed is what's already there. Typed is information that I enter. Right? And then handwritten would be if I cross this out. Look right here. Let's imagine this was typed in, okay? Printed would be I cross this out and I say it's no longer Bruno the one buying, it's John, and it's written that way. John Smith. So this is printed, and we all have to sign. Me signing it, initial it, and makes it valid now. Do you see the difference? So printed, again, it's what's already there. Typed is whatever we type into the form itself, but handwritten overrides everything. Okay? Heather, I'm pretty sure a lot of it was not covered yet, but you did good. Let me know, Daphne. You got it? Good? All right, everybody's good? Great. Okay. Let me go back to, right here. All right, cool. Ready? Any other questions regarding the previous chapter, chapter 11, chapter 10, anything before we start? Mina, even though the background is like removing most of it, I still see you on your phone. Just saying. All right. So if there's no other questions, let's move this. We got leases, landlord and tenant. Now, guys, we're thinking maybe if it's a lease, everybody knows what it is, right? Leasing is landlord rents to tenant, and tenant rents from landlord. Should be easy, right? The thing is, there's a lot more when it comes to renting. Okay? There's a lot more when it comes to renting. There are some rules and regulations. It's not as simple as I pay rent, I can do whatever I want because I'm paying the rent. And it's not as simple as I'm the owner of the house, so you do whatever I say because I'm the owner of the house. It's not as simple as that. There's a lot of rules to renting. So let's figure out what we got. First of all, what is a lease? So a lease from an owner of real estate known as the lessor or the landlord to a tenant who is the lessee or the tenant, right? Transfers the right to possession and use of the owner's property to the tenant for a specified period of time. Okay? Now, it transfers a few more rights. Does anybody remember, before we move forward, this is chapter 5. Does anybody remember what are the 5 fundamental rights we get when we buy a house? Anybody? Let's go to the chat. Let's see what comes up. The right to use, right? Was right there. Occupancy. Okay. Possession, enjoyment. Sale, which is disposition or alienation. Very good. All right. We already got use. Exclusion. That was the only one missing. Exclusion. Chad just said right there. Right? So these are the 5 rights. You have the right of possession. Right? You have the right to use the property in any legal manner. You have the right of enjoyment, the right of exclusion, and the final right is the right of disposition or alienation. Now, that was a freehold estate. Remember that? Freehold estate? When you own a property, you have a freehold estate. You have these 5 rights. But when you rent, guys, when you rent, do you have all 5 rights? No. There's one right that you don't have. You don't have the right of disposition or alienation. You do have the right to possession and the right to use the property in any legal manner. You have the right to enjoy the property while you're there and to exclude people. During that period of time, it's yours. You can do whatever you want, right? But you don't have the right to sell the property or gift the property. Therefore, you have a less than freehold estate. And that's what we call leasehold estate, okay? Now, another thing before we get into leasehold estates. A transfer of property by lease is known as a demise. Who remembers what is a devise? If a transfer of property by lease is a demise, what is a devise? This was also chapter 5. Sarah, thank you. Transfer by will. Correct. All right, so I'm going to mention this a few times until we get to chapter 20, which is where we talk about wills. But devise. Now, I just want to know something. We said transfer, and I underlined it. Here again says transfer, and I underline. What is another word, guys? What is another word for transfer that you know, that we've been talking about in this book? Another word for transfer. Convey. Very good. So a transfer is a conveyance. It's when it goes from one place to another, in this case from one person to another, okay? So think of conveying belts. Conveying belts, they transfer property from here to here, right? Where a deed transfers from this person to that person. Simple as that. So with that being said, on the next page, it says that a lease is both a contract, we're going to talk about it in a second, and a conveyance, right? So a lease is a contract because it's between two parties and sets conditions that both parties must follow. But it's also a conveyance or a transfer that grants leasehold estate. Now, we talked about this yesterday. You should remember that statute of frauds, New Jersey statute of frauds requires that leases for a period of more than 3 years, they have to be in writing. A lease for less than 3 years does not have to be in writing. It could be an oral agreement. You guys remember that a contract could be oral or written, right? But if it's more than 3 years, it must be in writing. It also tells you that if you want to record into public records, if you want to put the lease into public records, it has to be for 2 years or more. To be recorded, 2 years or more. And now, to successfully sue someone, you already know, for commission, you got to have authorization in writing. You guys got this already, right? So now let's get into leasehold estates. If it's a leasehold estate, that means it's a less than freehold estate. That means we're talking about tenants right there. Okay? Every time you see the word lease right there, leasehold, we're talking about tenants. Gotta remember that. Okay. All right, cool. So let's go to the bottom, and there of that page. We're on page 161, and there's a table. Now in that table, we have different types of estates. We start off with estate for years, the only one that I have highlighted. I'll explain why in a second. We have estate from period to period, meaning it's a renewable estate, right? We have estate at will, that means I want to, and there's estate at sufferance, that means I don't want to. Okay, so you can take notes on this. These two is I want to, it's my will to allow you to be there as a landlord, right? And I don't want you. As a landlord, I say I don't want you here. I'm suffering that you're still here. Okay? So, ready? Why do I have the first one highlighted? Let's go to the chat. I want you guys to tell me when you see estate for years. When you see estate for years, what is the first thing that comes to mind? What do you think this type of lease is? We're talking about leasehold estates. What do you think it is? Hit me in the chat. Whoever's watching on YouTube, let me know as well. Estate for years. Okay. Really, Mina? All right. So we got Carlos says long term. Joseph says for a period of time. Sarah says for a period of time. Let me get out of the way. What else? Stephanie says limited. So that's the first thing that comes to mind is limited. Anthony says long-term lease. I'm going to skip Mina. Steven says apartment in New York. So in the state for years is an apartment in New York. That's the first thing that comes to mind? All right. Let's see. Crystal, really? For a defined period of time. Lou says yearly. Gil says month to month. Estate for years, month to month. Okay. Garrett says long term. Daphne says definite long term. Amount of time. Indefinite. 2 years or more. Period of time. Does not renew automatically. Day to day. Sandra, no comments. And Steven says, yeah, bad example, but it reminds me of people have to sign a lease every year. Okay. So, there you go. Ready? Estate from year to year. So, I'm sorry, estate for years. So a lot of people already answered that, mainly previous students. Thank you very much. Like the first thing that comes to mind, yeah, what you told me last time. That's pretty much what it was. So going back here. When we talk about estate for years, it sounds like it's a long time. It sounds like it's a long-term lease. Okay, that's what it sounds like. Or, as Gil said, it could be like you put month to month, but I would think more like year to year, like it renews, right? So that's what you could think of. What you need to remember is that estate for years, for those of you that were reading from the book, right, or searched online, estate for years is for a definite period of time. So what does that mean? It means there's a, I'm going to explain better in a second. There's a check-in and there's a check-out. Nope, not just the summer rentals. There's a check-in, there's a check-out. So let me explain this. When we talk about estate for years, it sucks that it's called estate for years. I don't know why they haven't changed this yet. It should have been a definite estate, something like that, or certain period estate. At least that already a definition that it starts and ends, right? So think about it this way: when you go to, let's say you go on vacation. Let's look at Pedro, my partner, right now on vacation, right? He got there on Saturday, and he has to leave on Saturday. So, Sunday. And then he has to leave, come back on Sunday. So, what does that mean? It means he has a check-in, and he has a check-out. Now, this is a 1 week rental of a space, right? Because that's what we do when we go on vacation. We rent a space from the hotel, right? Or the Airbnb, or whatever it is that you're renting, you rent that space for a certain period of time. Let's say 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, a year. It doesn't matter for how long you're renting. What matters is that there's a check-in and a check-out. And that's what defines an estate for years. It's the most difficult one to figure out. That's why I have it in green, because everything else is easy. So no, it's not like a loft. It's everything. Stephen, it's everything and anything. The moment you see estate for years, right? The moment you see estate for years, you have to think about renting for 3 days at a hotel. Check in, check out. Also, because it is estate for years, since you have a check out, right? Then I know, actually let's put it this way. You go to the hotel. You check in at 9 p.m. on Friday. You have to check out at 11 or 12 on Sunday. You already predetermined that you were leaving at that time on that day. Remember? When you checked in, you predetermined it, right? So as the landlord, as the hotel, do I have to call you and say, hey, Steven, remember, 12, you got to get out. Do I have to do it? No. I'll give you a courtesy call, maybe, but I don't have to do it, because when you rented the space, the vacation spot, right, or the getaway spot, whatever, when you rented it, you already said, I'm going to leave on Sunday at 11. You got it? Which is different from the estate from period to period, because this is the week to week, the month to month. Hey, we'll see how it goes. I'll pay you, you accept me, I'll pay you, you accept me, and we'll see how it goes. When I'm tired of paying you, I'll tell you, hey, 30 days from now, I'm out. When you're tired of seeing me, you're going to say, hey, Bruno, I appreciate your money, but I need the apartment. So it automatically renews the period to period. The estate for years doesn't automatically renew, but it automatically ends. There's a checkout. You got it? So if I have a 1 year lease for an apartment right now, guys, wherever you live, if you rent, if you have a 1 year lease, that's an estate for years. There's a check-in, which is the day you move in, and there's a checkout, which is the end of the lease. Okay? For instance, if I check in today is the 15th, right? My checkout for 1 year will be on July 14th of 2021. By the end of that day, I must be out because that's what I paid for the 1 year. Okay? If I want to renew, if I want to stay, then I have to tell the landlord, hey, landlord, I really like your apartment. I would like to renew the lease. Do you guys understand? What a lot of landlords do is they allow you to stay. As long as you keep paying, I don't care. Right? Then it becomes a period to period. It either renews for a whole year, depending on what the lease says, right? Or becomes a month to month. As long as you pay and until one of us says quits, we have a relationship. That's it. All right? You guys got it? Give me a thumbs up if you got it. All right. If there's any questions, drop the question. Gil, so if you rent a house in LBI for a week, it would be an estate for years. That's what it will be considered. It doesn't matter if it's a year, 10 years, 1 week, 1 day. The fact that you check in and check out, the fact that you determine the time to go in and the time to leave, that makes it an estate for years. The word years just throws people off. And again, that's why it's the only one highlighted. Okay? Yep. Okay, got it. Now, let's assume, and guys, I'm just giving you a summary already of the whole page. Let's assume that, so back to Steven, right? On Sunday, 11, you're supposed to leave. I gave you the call, the courtesy call. Hey, by the way, it's almost 11. You got to go, right? And let's say that you tell me, oh, Bruno, can I please stay a little bit longer? I just fell asleep. I'm not ready. And I'll tell you, sure, you got until 2 o'clock. I'll give you until 2 o'clock. Go ahead. Don't worry about it, right? Comes 2 o'clock, you're still there, right? And can I allow you to stay a little bit longer or maybe another day? Can I? If I want to, yeah. It becomes at will. I allow you to stay at will. What if I say, no, you got to go, but you stay there? Then I'm suffering as a landlord because you're still there and I need the unit to rent to somebody else. So the only reason I use hotels as an example is because it's the easiest thing to remember, right? Check in, check out. I might allow you to stay longer. That's at will. I might need you to leave now. That's at sufferance, right? So anytime anybody stays longer than the period of time allowed, right? Anybody that stays longer, they're there at sufferance. You're longer than what I allow you. Can I allow you to stay longer? Yes, at will. If it's beyond the time that I allowed you, I'm suffering because you're there. Okay? Now, let me ask you something. Let's say, back to Steven still. Let's say, Steven, I tell you, it's okay, you can stay another day. Right? Now, you paid for the weekend or you paid for a whole week, whatever. Or even for the whole year. When we pay for several days, it's called a bundle, right? Just the same thing as your cable at home. You got the triple play, for instance, that's the bundle, right? You have your cell phone built into it as well, like built in the same account. It's a bundle. Now, usually when it's a bundle, it's cheaper, correct? So if I allow you to stay another day, am I billing you at the bundled rate or hey, it's the daily rate now? Let me know, guys. All right, and everybody's saying daily. Flavio, I saw your message. I'll go right back to it. Okay. Heather just said, it's up to you, but more likely daily. Of course, it's up to the landlord always. I can just say, don't worry, just keep on paying and we're good. But I can also say, yeah, you want to stay? You're supposed to have left this morning. You want to stay? No problem. The daily rate is not $30. The daily rate that you got in the bundle, the daily rate is $200. Yeah, you can stay. $200 and I'll allow you to stay another night. You see what I'm saying? So at will. If you say I'm staying but I'm not paying $200, well, at sufferance. Okay? Like the Disney example. That's how Disney is. They're so kind to kids. All right, let's see what we got here. Flavio says he rented an Airbnb house in Florida. I paid deposit for 1 week to Christmas and New Year's, but the owner sent a message telling me can't have those days for any years. What can I do? Oh, this is something coming up? Well, if you paid the deposit and it's already there, then you should be able to do it. I don't know. So Flavio, I don't know if the contract says that these dates are subject to change or these prices are subject to change or anything like that. That is called, I gotcha, right? That's the thing. I got your money, and then maybe you have to reschedule, right? It's the disclosures that they put in really, really tiny letters, right? So there might be something there that says they're allowed to do it that way. So I would need to read and in order to be able to explain it better to you. Okay. All right. So back to this. All right. Zoom is kicking people out. Gotta be internet. I don't know. Okay. So back to this. We're gonna go back up and we're gonna highlight everything that we just talked about. If you have the physical book. If you have the ebook, it's already highlighted, makes it easier. So, a state for years, you have to remember there's a definite period, therefore a specific termination date. So this means, again, check in, check out. Okay? Definite termination date or specific termination date. Now, I was telling you guys that once the time expires, like you said you're supposed to leave by Sunday, the time expires, guess what? I don't have to give you any notice to terminate the lease. Why? Because we predetermined when you're supposed to leave. A year ago, we said you're supposed to leave today. What are you doing here? You know? That's what it is. Also, we already know this, that an estate for years does not necessarily need to last for years or even for 1 year. It could be for 6, right on top, for 6 weeks or 10 months. Its distinguishing characteristic is that it begins and ends at a specific time. Again, one more time. Check in. Check out. Okay? Check in, check out. All right, the next one is periodic estate. Periodic estate is from period to period. So that's the week to week, the month to month, the year to year, whatever we determine. It renews in increments depending on what we determine, but there's no length of time. There's no specific expiration date. A periodic estate never ends. Well, let me correct that. It ends when one of us gives notice to each other. Okay? Simple. Now, when there's no new lease agreement made, the landlord can either accept the holdover tenancy or evict the tenant. Okay, so what is a holdover tenancy? What is eviction? Well, holdover, as the name says, you're holding possession of the property over the period that was allowed to you. So when I told Steven earlier that at 11 a.m. he's supposed to leave, but he stays a little bit longer, right? If I allow it, then I accepted him to hold possession of the property over the period allowed. So until 2 o'clock, I give him an extra few hours. I accepted the holdover. You got it? But what if I needed the apartment right away? What if I needed you to leave right away? Then I have to evict you at sufferance. Evict you. You guys got it? Holdover means I'm there longer than what I was supposed to be. Okay? If you have any questions, just drop it in the chat. Now, do you remember, Stephen, I'm going to hit you a lot today in this section. Do you remember when I said to Stephen, I allow you to stay another day, but it's not the bundled rate of $30, it's the $200 rate, the daily rate? You guys remember that, everybody? All right. Guess what? You're telling me that you're going to leave in the month to month, you're going to leave, right? But you don't leave? That's fine. That's fine. No problem. You just got to pay me double the rent. That's like the daily rate. I'm not charging you the bundled rate that we've been having so far. No. You said you were leaving. So if you're still here, I'm entitled to charge you double the rent. Landlords, are you happy? Now you know you can collect. Sandra's like, yeah. Now you know you can collect double the rent. Okay. Hey Flavio, your background is flickering. I don't know what's going on. Remember, guys, I need to see you guys, okay? So, Saverio, I need to see you. I know you're chilling out there. Riley, I need to see you. Who else? Let me do my roll call. Catherine was able to get back in. Nicole's on the road. Luz, I see your hair. Let's see. Who else? All right, we're good. Everybody else repeating. Okay. Steven says it's only double. Do you want more? Are you a landlord or you're a tenant? You are a landlord, so you want more, of course. If you were a tenant, you'll be like, no. All right. Carlos, should be able to charge 10 times. Wow. There you go. No, I understood you. I know it wasn't changed. All right. What else? Now, something you guys need to understand. This sentence right here, it's not, most likely not in the state exam, but this is for real life. If you are a landlord, do not be desperate for money. Okay? And you're probably like, well, yeah, I need to pay my mortgage. And I'll be like, yeah, if they give you any kind of money, you just reset that eviction. If you really need them out, because they're not paying, but you accept some money, that means you are in agreement to whatever settlement you guys made, right? So you want to go to court and the judge will say, well, landlord, did you receive any money from the tenant? And you're going to say, yeah, $500, but no buts. New action. Come back when you're ready for it. Simple. Simple as that. New action. This one is over because you guys agreed. You received money. So guys, it says right here, subsequent acceptance of rent by the landlord. Doesn't say value, it says rent, right? Doesn't say specific value. If it's the full rent, half rent, nothing. It just says subsequent acceptance of rent creates a tenancy from month to month. You allow the person to stay a little bit longer as they're getting their finances straight, okay? To terminate the periodic estate, all you have to do is give notice to the landlord or the landlord give notice to the tenant. Guys, if you're on the month to month, it's easy. 1 month's notice. But that 1 month's notice, I know I don't have it highlighted here, but 1 month's notice is before the date that the rent is due. So if your lease says rent's due on the 5th, then it's 1 month, not 30 days, 1 month before. So the previous 5th is when I have to give you the notice. Why is that? Well, simple. Because some months have more days, some months have less days. Okay? So this way it's established that whatever the rent due date is the notification date, 1 month prior. Okay? Tenancy at will, you guys already know. So if you want to highlight the first sentence, if you have the physical book. But tenancy at will means you are allowing me to stay there for an indefinite period of time. You're allowing me. We're not saying it's for 1 day. We're not saying it's for 100 days. It's whatever we agreed. Okay? Indefinite. At will. While tenancy at sufferance, next page, tenancy at sufferance is without consent of the landlord. Tenancy at sufferance, the landlord's suffering because you're still there. I don't want you there. Get out. Right? I'm suffering because you're still there. Here's the cool thing about that. If you're a tenant at sufferance, then you can be evicted at any time. If it's at sufferance, I can start the eviction process. The only problem is what I told you earlier. If you accept monies, makes it difficult. Okay? Eviction is very difficult when you start accepting monies. You guys good? Yeah. All right. Standard lease provisions. Question. Standard lease provisions. Before we start, let me go to the chat. Okay. Before we start this section, going to the chat, you guys should know by now. What are the essential elements of a valid contract? The essential elements of a valid contract. Essential elements. And Stephen will be the one to say mentally stable. Got it. Sound mind. Sound mind. Mentally stable. Sound mind is not only mentally stable, it's also understanding what you're doing. So that could be under the influence or drugs, right? Doesn't mean you're not mentally stable, but you are aware. So sound mind is mainly trying to say you're aware of your actions. Mentally stable. But you're right. You're right. Alcohol does leave you mentally impaired, so maybe, yeah. I'm sorry. In order to get into a contract, we have to offer Jesus? Gil, I'm a little lost on this one. To be valid, guys, from now on, doesn't matter what religion you have, to be valid contract, you must offer Jesus in the middle of this. Yep. Thanks, Gil. I mean, I've heard of sacrifices before in the name of religion, but Jesus. Literally. All right, let's see. Chad, I've tried to offer dogs, kids, but not Jesus. You guys notice that he did not say the wife. Take everybody else, but not Jesus and the wife. There you go. All right, let's see what we got. So, 18 years old, over 18, offer acceptance, consideration, perfect. Gil, off way, and acceptance, capable of parties, lawful object. I didn't know you speak Afrikaans or something like that. Not under duress. In writing. Oh, Mina. Writing is not a requirement. Remember, we have oral contracts. Okay, let's see. Sane adults, got it. The wife cooks for him so he wouldn't dare. I'm sure. Well, according to Geraldine, there's always Uber Eats. And, quesadillas. All right. Meredith, I need your camera on. Need to see you there. Let's see. Consideration also. Is there one missing? Oh, Gary got it. Legal purpose. Legal purpose. Legality of the object. Okay, so for a valid contract to exist, Tahira, so hold on, let me go to YouTube Live real quick. So Tahira, you just put an emoji. What is that emoji for? Sorry, just want to make sure. I know we're like a few seconds behind. So, for a valid contract to exist, Competent parties. That means you're 18 years of older, 18 years of age or older, and of sound mind. There's offer and acceptance, right? Offer and acceptance. I offer. These are the terms. You accepted the terms. We're good, right? Consideration, which is exchange of value. I give you something in exchange for something else, right? Exchange of value. And the last one is legal purpose. It must be for something that's legal, okay? Tahira says, shaking my head regarding Jesus. That was Gil, okay? I have nothing to do with that. He said we offer Jesus and put an asterisk. I don't know if there was more. Disciples go with it too, but or if there's conditions, terms and conditions, but he did write it. All right, so those are the 4 essential elements. Guess what? When we go to a lease, it's the same thing. A lease needs to have, because a lease is a contract, needs to have all essential elements. Here comes the first one. Capacity to contract. That means got to be sane adults. A demising clause. The demising clause means transfer. I'm letting you, so lessor is letting, right? And then the lessee is taking. So there's an exchange there. There's the demising clause, right? The description of the premises. This is again part of the information. A clear statement of the duration, so how long it's going to last. Let me skip this right here. And then again, consideration right here, how the rent is going to be paid, right? This has to be part of the lease, right? And then these last 2 bullet points, very important. Because somebody said put it in writing. Right, Mina? Mina Yusuf, you said writing. A writing contract is not a required thing. If it's for sale of real estate, the answer is yes. For sale of real estate, it must be in writing. For rentals, they are for more than 3 years. If it's for more than 3 years, okay? If it's not for more than 3 years, what did I do here? Hold on. Let me redo this. If it's not for more than 3 years, does it have to be in writing? If it's for 2 years, does it have to be in writing? No. So that's why in writing is not a requirement to any contract except for more than 3 years on a lease or sales of a real estate transaction. So that's the only time it must be in writing. And obviously, if it's in writing, that's why I slow down on these 2. Obviously, if it's in writing, then there's an additional requirement, which is signatures. Simple. And I know it doesn't make sense because if you have an oral agreement, we're not signing anywhere, right? Now that we put on paper, we got proof. Why do we need signatures? But anyway, if it's in writing, signatures now go with it. Okay, Gil is trying to redeem himself, Tahira. Let me show you real quick because you guys cannot see it on YouTube. Okay, he's trying to redeem himself. He says, no, I wasn't taking religion. I apologize. I messed up. Trying to say I was giving Jesus. Like, darn. Like, that make it better. It's like darn and damn and right. And then Jesus still doesn't make it any better. But anyway, he was not, Tahira, don't worry about it. He was not trying to bring religion, like Jesus as a sacrifice. That was not what he was doing. Okay? He tried to redeem himself. It was a good attempt, though. I have to say, it was a good attempt to redeem. Change that. Backwards. Oh, that's what backpedal. So backwards. You went backwards, yeah. Anyway. Guys, I'm sorry. Please don't ever. I know some people are very sensitive. I don't ever get offended by anything I say. I just try to make it fun. If I offend you, let me know, and I will definitely not speak this way. But it's just to make it fun. Next. Plus, by the way, plus he's the one that's violating the second commandment. It's not me, right? Not me. He's the one that put his name there, not me. All right, so next. Oh, Abeno is back. Peter's somewhere too. I don't know where Peter is, but he's somewhere. Um, Sarah, I love you. Look here, right here. Salespeople can't be sensitive. That is true because you're gonna hear a lot of BS. I'll tell you that right now. All right. Riley got serious. Riley, I'm sorry. You know me for years. I'm sorry. Didn't mean. All right. Use of the premises. Let's go. Use of the premises. Now, this is a logical thing, guys. Right here where I'm at, you guys, most of you don't know because you haven't been here. Some of you already been here. Where I'm at, there's chairs, right? There's tables. There's TVs. There's a lot of stuff here that's for the purpose of the school. Okay? Now, I rented this spot right here, this little corner right here, for the specific purpose of the school, of being a school. So, can I put here a Starbucks, for instance? I always like to talk about Starbucks for some reason. Can I put a Starbucks here instead of this school? And I'm getting answers saying no, right? Because the lease restricts the use of the premises. So if it's for that particular purpose, then it must continue in that purpose. If it's a broad lease, like it doesn't specifically state that it's for that purpose, then are you able to do other things? Well, now it's subject to the town's restrictions. The town might not allow me to put a Starbucks here. The lease doesn't restrict me, but the town might not. So things to remember, okay? Use of the premises is obvious. It's whatever they allowed us to do. Term of the lease. What does it mean, term? The term is the period or duration of the lease, right? So it has to state in the lease if it's a month-to-month, or if it's a one-year lease, you must state that it begins and ends. Check in, check out. Okay, we already covered this, so you should know. New Jersey requirements. You should remember this from yesterday. It says that all offers, contracts, or leases prepared by licensees must indicate the business relationship that the firm has with respect to the parties named in the document. Now, it also has to have an acknowledgement that the CIS was received by the buyers or tenants and sellers or landlords prior to the first showing of the property. Now, guys, what are the types of business relationships that we can enter into? And this goes for YouTube as well. Let me know. What are the types of business relationships that we can enter into? Let me go up. Steven says seller's agent and stops right there. Like I gave one answer, you're good. Then we have JT and Tick. Nope, that's forms of ownership. Joseph says seller's agent. Oh, Steven's right there. Okay, he gave me buyer's agent. All right, we got more. Buyer's agent. Joseph is just copying whatever Steven says, so we're good. Next, Gil says transaction, seller, buyer. I don't know what that means. Steven says disclosed, buyer, seller, agent. Okay. Joseph helped you on that one. It's called dual agent, disclosal agent. Heather says sales agent, buyer's agent, dual agent. Dual agent is illegal. Okay. But if it's disclosed, then it's legal. Key words. Don't take disclosed out of this one, please. Tidy says buyer's agent, sales agent, just missing a few things. Crystal says agency. David Gonzalez, seller, buyer, seller, agent. Okay, I think you're trying to say dual agent. Okay. Seller agent, buyer agent, transition brokers, because we transitioned from being a broker to a salesperson. Transaction. I got you, Vanessa. I know you did. Okay, transaction, Mina corrected you, I guess. Seller's agent, dual agent, buyer's agent. Anthony again. Dual agent is illegal. Disclosed dual agent is legal. CIS, Riley, is where we find it, but that's not the business relationships that we could get into. It's where we find it, which is great. Tidy again, disclosal agent. Yanessa, seller's agent, buyer's agent, disclosal agent, and then we transacting. Okay, transacting. There you go. Disclose. Very good. Oh, you corrected here. Transaction broker. Got it. All right, cool. So, types of business relationships. Seller's agent, buyer's agent. We got that on. Oh, yep. Janice, thank you. We got that on YouTube Live as well. So, seller's agent, buyer's agent, disclosed dual agent, very important, and transaction broker. Okay. Not even like that, Gil. I don't know what's going on with your keyboard. What kind of phone do you have? Let me know. If you can type, let me know. Let me just block this as in case. Okay, now. Then it's you. It's you. If it was an iPhone, I would understand. Being a Samsung S10, then it's you. Heather says it sounds like a threat. Are you going to cut typus? That's what it sounded like, right? All right. Next. All right. So New Jersey also requires that the following language appear in exactly this form at the top of the first page of a residential lease when it's prepared by a real estate licensee for a term of 1 year or more. So if you're preparing the lease, it's for 1 year or more. It has to have these words, which you should know by now. This is a legally binding lease that will become final within 3 business days, right? It will become final. It's binding after 3 business days. That means if we don't dispute the terms of the lease, right? After 3 business days, whatever the terms are, that's what you accepted, deal with it. So, because we're not people that understand contracts most of the times, what should we do? They give us the 3 business days so we can consult an attorney. It's the time for the attorney review. That's the 3 business day period. Again, we talked about this yesterday. It's where we can bring to the attorney studies, makes amendments, right? Whatever changes you request based on their advice. They send to the other attorney says, hey, I appreciate your answer. Here's a few things that we'll adjust as well, right? And they go back and forth. But that back and forth must initiate within the 3 business days. So when do you start counting the 3 business days? Just like yesterday. From the date of delivery of the signed lease, right? The signed lease to both parties. So when does the 3 business days start counting? Once we both have signed copies, fully executed contracts, right? You guys got it? All right. Let me do a roll call again. Who do we got? I see David, Nicole, Linda, Luz, Mina Fozzie, not there. I know you're there, but you're not there because I don't see you. Crystal, Yamili, Vanessa, Joseph, Gary, Talia, Flavia, I don't see you. Who else? Guys, you have to remember you have to be on camera so I know that you're there. Zoom records you. So when I go review the amount of time that you were there, and if you're paying attention, if you're jumping to different apps and all that stuff, Zoom doesn't tell me which apps you jump to, but tells me that you're not on Zoom. So again, I know a lot of you, especially from the previous class, some are still here, did not get a notice from me that says you're eligible to take the exam. There was a reason, right? So Heather says, so you're like Santa. I know who's naughty. I know who's nice. Yep. And if you don't get notice to take the exam, that's your call. Yep. Anyway. Steven's now like, what do you mean? Well, one of the things that I mean, Steven, since you're the one asking, one of the things that I mean is every time I keep on saying I see people smiling and typing, but nothing comes through, it's the people that just ask the question, what do you mean you know? Well, one is visual, and the other one, it tells me how much time you spend on the actual Zoom. So for those of you that are using your phone as a Zoom, so the visual, then that's what they tell me. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell me if you're on your computer, you're doing something else. But that I can see, that's why I asked you guys to be on camera so I can see you and I see your actions. Anyway. Gillis says, when I go on the chat, the screen doesn't show me. Well, I know that because you're doing everything from your phone. You're waiting on your laptop, okay. Vanessa, what happens if you lose one class? Where did you lose it? Where did it go? If you miss one, if you miss just one, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You have to complete 90% of the course. You got it? All right. You guys need to understand, it doesn't matter if you're home or if you're here. That's why I keep on asking you guys to participate. And sometimes I call names, like in the previous session. So I'm going to put some people on the spot. In the previous session, I kept on calling Lena's name. And not even a peep, right? Let's see. Somebody else. Jonathan, are you on the line? I see that you're here. I just want to make sure you are. Yes. Do you remember when I called Lena's name a couple of times? Because I know you remember almost everything. You felt honesty is great. Okay. But anyway, I'm always paying attention to you guys. That's my job. This book, I know it by heart, so I don't need to be reading the book. I just read it to follow, so you have some guidance. My job is to pay attention to what you guys are doing and see if you're having difficulty or not. My job is to answer questions. My job is to keep proper records. So when I finish, see, you guys finish the class, let's say at 9, or yesterday was 9:30, whatever. Right? When you finish, you are done. Whether you study after or not, that's up to you. My job is to then review everything we went over, attendance and attention. So I have an extra job right after, which is going after 3.5 hours or 4 hours sometimes of everything to figure out what you guys have been doing. Again, that's why I keep on calling you guys out. Pay attention. Okay? Yeah, a lot of work. You're welcome. So every time I say, guys, pay attention, I know somebody's not paying attention. Somebody's out of there. Okay? Just saying. My goal is for you, all of you to pass. But if you don't do your side of it, right? So like we said yesterday, it's expressed what I'm trying to do. What's implied is that you got to do your part as well. All right. So back to this. That's why I also keep on bringing back stuff from the first chapters. Try to integrate with these chapters because I know it's going to pop up. Jonathan's asking, does the commission have the ability to watch the class? No. But the commission demanded that we keep records of the class because if they have to audit for any reason, I have the records. If I lose the records, I get in trouble. And I'm not losing my license over anybody. So, yeah. Daphne says, we never noticed Daphne, by the way. It's even harder online. My attention span is limited. I know that, right? And as much as I'm sarcastic, okay, I'm a teacher, so I am aware of how difficult it is even here in class. I was a student once, and I did the same thing. I could hardly pay attention in the same way. But then I got some people to help me pay attention, right? By bringing coffee. You are the man. Seriously. I couldn't ask for better people. Thank you. See? He makes a coffee for himself. He brings coffee for me. You guys are out there eating ice cream and eating whatever you eat, quesadillas and stuff. Nobody brings it to me. It's okay. All right. Hold on. Distraction. All right. So, guys, going back to the point. That's the thing. My job is to make sure you're paying attention. My job is to make sure I clarify all questions. The reason why I stay after, I don't know, a lot of you probably don't know this, but at the end, I always stay a little bit longer to answer questions that you might have. So it doesn't end when all of you end. I still stay here. Just want to make sure everybody gets it. Okay? And that's one of the reasons why my school, thank God, has a greater rating than the average, the national average. I don't know compared to other schools, but I know from the national average, the state average, and national average, we're above. Okay? Does that mean that I'm the best out there? No, it doesn't mean that. But I know that at least I'm doing something better than the overall of the school. Okay? So that means there's some schools out there that are really, really bad. That's all I'm saying. All right. Thank you, Heather. All right. So, yeah, that too, Gil. All right. So, let's go over this. We talked about this in chapter 9. We talked about this in chapter 10. We talked about this in chapter 11. And now we're talking about it again. Lead-based paint. Does anybody remember what lead-based paint was about? What do we have to do as agents? We have to provide a pamphlet and a disclosure in the contract. Okay? So that disclosure says, hey, Mr. Tenant, in this case, there's risks of high levels of lead in the paint in this house because it was built before 1978. So be aware, and that's the figure we have on chapter 9, be aware of risks of lead-based paint. Protect your family from lead-based paint. Okay? So very important. Any house built before 1978. All right, security deposits. Can anybody tell me what security deposits are for? What are security deposits? Who can tell me? To cover up if you mess up. Absolutely. So there you go. To hold in case of damage. Insurance for damage to the property. Money to cover damages. All right. The reason why I asked this, because a lot of you, Heather just covered what I was going to say. A lot of you think that the damages are just physical damages, but there's economical damages. For instance, not paying the rent. So I can withhold the security deposit because you didn't pay the rent. That means at the end when you leave, you're not entitled to it. If I want to be a good landlord, I'll give it back. If I want to be one of those nasty landlords, hey, you were late, remember? That's all. You breached the contract, remember? Because a security deposit, just like a good faith deposit, is pretty much to say, I will honor all the terms of the contract. That's all it is. I'll pay on time. I won't destroy the property. I'll keep it as is, right? Whatever purpose it was. So that's what it is. Crystal, let me address that in a second because that's illegal. All right? I'll address that in a second. So, the security guarantees the payment of rent and safeguards the tenant's destruction of the premises. Now, one thing that I want to point out that's very, very important, And because there's people from other states, I have to address this. It's different in different states. In the state of New Jersey, residential landlords may charge no more than 1.5 month rental figure as secure deposit. So if it's $1,000, the max that you can charge as secure deposit is $1,500 plus 1 month rent. But the deposit is a separate thing. In fact, it even goes into a separate account. Okay? It goes into a special interest-bearing account used only for security deposits. So, state of New Jersey, 1.5 month is the max that you can charge as security deposit. If it's commercial property, then there's no limit. I can charge you a whole year if I want to. Okay? Yep, Moses. No commingling. No commingling. You put it in a separate account. Now, another thing you need to remember, this is for a special interest-bearing account, but who does the interest belong to? It belongs to the tenant because it's the tenant's money. You got it? So you have to put in an interest-bearing account, and whatever interest comes from that account, you give it to the tenant right away. It's not yours. Okay, when I say right away, it's like you don't touch it. It doesn't come to you. It goes to the tenant. Crystal says, an agent told me it's the law and had to charge 1.5. Nope. There's no law. Whoever told you that, there's no law that mandates charging secure deposits. You can rent from me with no secure deposit if you want, or if I allow. But I can also tell you, hey, it's 1 week, it's 2 weeks, it's half a month, it's 1 month, it's a month and a half, but no more than that. Okay? Secure deposits, just like good faith deposits, they are not mandatory. They're customary, but not mandatory. There's no law that says you have to. Okay? And Heather, really? So don't trust Heather, please. Okay? She's about to be a salesperson, so don't trust her. So you didn't take the place because of that. Okay. Well, Crystal, here's the thing. The majority of the places now, and if it goes through a salesperson, the majority of places are charging 1.5 month secure deposit. I always charged 1.5 month, always did. Since my first rental, always 1.5 month. Okay, and the majority is doing that. But there's no law to it, and even that is negotiable. Okay. Connie says it's on the test. It's the max. All right. Next, if the property is sold. Okay, if the property is sold, what happens to the security deposit? Who does it belong to? Let me know in the chat. Who does the security deposit belong to? I know we're going to get mixed answers here. Who does the security deposit belong to? To the tenant. And yes, Flavio, very important. Security deposit belongs to the tenant. Doesn't belong to the owner, the seller, or the buyer. It doesn't belong to them. Therefore, when I sell the property, right, when I sell it to a new owner, I have to transfer the security deposit from the tenant, right? I have to transfer that deposit, give it to the new owner, and the new owner must notify, hey, tenant, I'm your new landlord. I have your security deposit that you gave to your previous landlord. I have it, and it's now at TD Bank. Used to be a Bank of America with them. It's at TD Bank with me. All right? So I have to notify, right, that I've transferred to my interest-bearing account that belongs where the money belongs to you, because it's still your money, tenant. Okay? Gary's answer is great. Well, the book says, here's the thing, the book won't come with you to the exam, so just know it. When the property is sold, you have to turn over the security to the new owner and notify the tenant. All right, this is where it starts getting interesting. Oh, Janice, I just asked what happened. Sorry, guys, addressing you too real quick. I just asked everybody as far as when there's a sale, when there's a transfer of ownership, who does the secure deposit belong to? So it belongs to the tenant still. It doesn't belong to the seller ever, the landlord ever, and it doesn't belong to the buyer, the new landlord ever. It always belongs to the tenant. Now, that's going to get interesting, the next section, because a lot of people get confused about this or don't even know. For instance, let's say our relationship ended. I'm no longer your tenant. You're no longer my landlord. Ready? What must be done? Well, if I gave you a security deposit, then you have to give me back the security deposit, right? The answer is absolutely yes, if there's no damages. But if there's damages, you have to return the deposit minus, look at this, itemized deductions. Itemized deductions. So you gave me, or I gave you, let's say you're the landlord. I gave you $2,000 as a deposit. There's only $200 worth of repairs. Can you keep the whole deposit? No. Do you guys know that a lot of landlords do that? Happened to me years ago. Back in 2004, around there. Happened to me. You guys understand? A lot of landlords do this. They keep the whole deposit. Oh, there's a light bulb missing. Okay, charge for the light bulb. They have to give you minus itemized deductions. This is law. Crystal, now you can say this is the law. All right, Mina Fauzi says, what if you fix the damages first? Can you still return? Yeah, so that's why you should return. We're going to talk about this. You should restore the property to the original condition. So fix the problems first. Heather asks, or states, I've had people make a bogus list of itemized items. Yep, absolutely. Joseph, I'm going to talk about that, and no, that's illegal. It's coming up. Heather says, when my daughter was really young, the landlord charged me $450 for a dirty diaper fee. Why, did they carry out the diaper? I'm not understanding. Like, dirty diaper fee? $450? What kind of diapers were these? The smell, it goes away. I mean, how bad was it? Was it like skunk bad, where it stays for a long time, or was it... Steven says, why did it smell? All right, Steven. What else we got here? Hold on. Yesenia says, breakdown must be in detail itemized. Yes. So you have to say cleaning out the apartment if trashed, must list the amount of hours, everything in detail. Absolutely. So if they do take you to court, or if you take them to court, you have that. Okay. Moving, where were we? I got distracted. Okay, here we go. Yep, everything down the drain. So you took it out, the house was always clean, and it was a bogus claim. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. That's why you have to have the itemized deduction so you can fight it in court. If it's worth it, you fight it in court. Mine, years ago, guys, keep it clean, thank you. I mean, the diaper's already in the way, but keep it clean. So it happened to me years ago. The only thing that was missing, and I've been telling the story for years since it happened, and I think that was my last, it was my last rental. After I got out of there, I went to purchase. So what happened was there was Apparently, 3 smoke detectors missing, and these were the most amazing smoke detectors ever, apparently, because they cost 1,850, or yeah, 1,850 was the deposit. So they're very very expensive. Those 3. All right, these are smoke detectors that had carbon monoxide. Apparently, they were also smart, so they connect with your phone and Amazon, which didn't exist at the time, but they did. They're also, they're like, they can communicate with space too. So 1,850 for 3 smoke detectors. They kept my deposit. The thing, guys, what I did not know, and most of you do not know, and Heather, if you want to go after those, well, it's been a while, right? But if you want to go after that $450, right? It says right here, the penalty. So this is for the landlord. The penalty for violation of this requirement, so not telling you or itemizing, okay, it's very simple. Just like the tenant has to pay double the rent if they stay after the period allowed, the landlord also has to pay double the security. Are you happy now, Steven? So you don't care. Just like they pay, I pay, no problem. Just double everything. Okay. Carlos, did you see what he just wrote? So just saying you wanted to charge 10 times more to the tenant. He's okay with you guys losing. Heather, 25 years ago. Texas life is good. All right. I got to move to Texas. All right, let's see. My landlord kept my, says Talia. Wow. My landlord kept my security deposit because I let him know I was leaving 2 months before the lease expired. So wait. Hold on. Okay. Oh, you left early. Like you didn't let him know. Okay, gotcha. Okay. Now I got it. So you gave him 3 months notice that you were leaving 2 months before it ended. Got it. So it's a total of 5 months. Right. So here's the thing. As far as that, it depends on the terms of the lease. In New York, there's a lot of this, which is as long as you have broom clean, meaning like it's a clean apartment, you can give 90 or 60 days notice to early termination of the lease, right? Because that's what you did. In New Jersey, we don't find that as much. It's not even part of our law. You can if you want, but it's not a part of the law. New York does have it in law that as long as that is there, the landlord should consider. But in New Jersey, we don't have that. Now, you gave 3 months notice. Do they have to accept it? No. Can they keep the deposit? Yeah. If the lease does not state otherwise, then yes, they can keep it. Okay? The question is, did they accept the 3 months in writing? They did. What did they say about the deposit? Let me know. Do you guys understand that contract is pretty much writing? Whatever you can prove. So put it in writing always. All right? If it's not in writing, then we can battle a little bit. But if it's in writing, then you have to deal with what's written there. Riley, I'll address you in a second. I just want to see what Talia is writing so I can conclude that part. Okay. So in the agreement that you were going to leave earlier, he didn't mention anything about the deposit. How long ago was that? Remember, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not giving legal advice. But 6 months ago, remember, in the previous chapter we said you have, in contract law, you have up to 6 years to sue somebody on a transaction. Contract law, right? So that means that you might have a case, Talia, to get your deposit back, because if he or she accepted, you gave a 3 months notice and they accepted it, then they mutually agreed to terminate the lease. So you might have a claim on your deposit. Again, not a lawyer. I can recommend one to you that only handles rentals. So if you want, send me a message separately and I'll give it to you. Riley, I guess you're going to go with the same attorney. Where are you supposed to go to report your landlord if they won't return the deposit for bogus reasons? Well, the first thing you have to do should be go to the Department of Community Affairs. put a complaint against them with Department of Community Affairs. What's going to happen, guys? They're supposed to be registered, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. They're supposed to be registered with the Department of Community Affairs at city level and state level, registered as landlords. In fact, they have to notify the city and the state through the same department. They have to notify, this is my tenant, this is how much they're paying. You have to notify that you are a landlord. How many people do this? Or actually, let me ask it differently. How many landlords? If there's landlords here, how many of you know that you're supposed to be registered with the city? Anybody? Go ahead, tell me. Carlos says he knows. Steven will be like whatever he said. Yep. Most people don't know. Okay. Jasenia is asking, what if the apartment was rented immediately right after? Okay. If this is New Jersey, New Jersey is pro-tenant. Okay, we're going to actually talk about that. New Jersey is pro-tenants, so there's going to be a lot of favors there. Hold on. Then maybe I did not understand your question. Jasenia, what is this? For the landlord to, so before I dwell into what I was going to say, for the landlord to collect double the rent, that means you left. Okay, or you're still there. Okay, so the landlord, they're not collecting the rent, they're keeping the security deposit in Talia's case. Right, Talia? They kept your deposit. Okay, so it's not charging double the rent, they're keeping the deposit, Yesenia. Okay, so if they rent right away, great, they rented. But they're not obligated to, as a landlord, they're obligated to try to rent, right? Right away. But, and that will protect the tenant, not the landlord. Okay? All right, so let me address this right here. There's one more thing I want to address so we can finish secure deposit, and we're going to dwell into a lot of these questions that you guys have. It's coming up in a little bit. But check this out. Crystal. Okay, where do I have Crystal? Crystal. Right there. Hi. So Crystal, remember you asked about, you mentioned last month's rent? Okay, so this is for you. Ready? I try not to forget what you guys asked. Sometimes it happens. Most of the times it doesn't. But check this out. The tenant is not entitled to apply the deposit to the last month's rent. Law says nope. Why? Because the security deposit is for after you leave. Are there any damages to the property? If you stay for the last month, guys, landlords, especially landlords, if you accept this type of scenario where the tenant says, hey, listen, I'm leaving anyway, you got money, use that as a deposit, right? If you do that, and the tenant leaves and there's a bunch of damage to the property, how are you going to get your money back? Now I have to take you to court, tenant, right? I have to take you to court, and God knows when I'm going to be able to recover monies. Because now you're somewhere else. Now your life is this way. Now your life is that way, right? So, as Chad just wrote, no recourse. And by the way, my attorneys have told me years ago, Bruno, if it's not more than $10,000, just let it go. You know why? Because I'm paying the attorney. I'm paying court and hoping that I'll collect one day. Because we have to now activate the sheriff to levy on your salary, on your taxes, on bank accounts, on whatever you got. So all these expenses and the wait time, just not worth it. So most of the times, if the damage is not that much, if it's $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, you know what? Just forget it. Walk away. Next. Rent it. Take the loss. Okay? Carlos just says, tenants realize that too. Yeah. My very first tenant was a professional renter. If you guys don't know what it is, a professional renter is somebody that knows these laws. And they knew that I was new in the game. So, yeah, they took advantage. They took a lot of money from me. 1 year of rent, of tenancy, right? And less than, a little bit less than 9 months without getting paid. 9 months without getting paid, and they're there for a whole year. They knew exactly how to play the game. So I don't play that game anymore, but back then I did not know. Heather says, in Texas, you cannot levy or garnish for anything but taxes and child support. Oh, here you can levy for anything. Yeah. But if it's taxes like IRS and child support, you'll even lose your driver's license, your passport. Like they'll force you to stop being able to work at all. So if you're not paying, they'll just stop your life completely. All right, let's see. Daphne, it happened to my mom. 3 months free with a year of fake checks. Hold on. Guys, don't type anything else. I just want to mention something real quick. Don't type anything else. Okay. Every state has a different law. Every state has a different law. But all very similar. When it comes to fake checks, you can sue because that's a federal crime, and you can sue at state level and federal level. You can sue up to 2, sometimes even 3 times the value of that check. At state level, it's 2 times. Federal level, up to 3 times the value of that check for fraud. All right, so Daphne, let your mom know. If it's been, I think statute of limitations is 2 years for that. If it's been 2 years, fight for it. You can sue. How much you're going to get? I don't know. If they had fake checks, they might not have even a good job or a good account to go after. But it's one of those things that, depending on the amount, you leave it there, and it's like a retirement fund. When you go retire, oh, I got money owed to me. Never know. And facts. Heather, to validate your statement, Carlos has the perfect answer. Try to levy on us. Right? Daphne, how long ago was that? $10 years. Yeah, so might not be able to do anything. Guys, remember, if you ever write a check and it bounces, it's a crime. Blank checks, crime. All right? One of the businesses I used to have, we used to allow people to do one ACH, which is we would withdraw it directly from your account, or pay us with a check. But every time we got paid with a check, I'll give you a receipt for that check that states, with a copy of the check, if this check bounces, based on law such and such, I can charge you up to 2.5 times the check, plus interest, whatever applicable interest in the court of law. So right away, anytime I accept a check, goes with that statement. My tenants have that statement in their lease. If a check bounces, I'm coming for you. Right? As far as Daphne, you just wrote, she went to court, courts favored the tenants, tenants live there another 3 months for free. I'm going to show you in a little bit that if they have, just like my professional renter had, if they have like some type of hardship, they're allowed to stay up to 6 months. They have to prove the hardship. So when I talked about the checks, it's true. When I'm talking about now what you said about they stay there for another 3 months for free, a total of 6, that means they presented a hardship to court, and court believed it. Okay. Look, you don't go 3 months writing checks that you know don't have money. Right? 1 month, I understand you weren't expecting, something just came into your account, and you're like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm sorry. Embarrassed, actually. Right? But 2 months, 3 months, yeah, I'm doing it on purpose. Simple. I'm doing it on purpose, and I'm not saying you're doing it on purpose because you want to scam somebody, but at this point you know you don't have the money, and maybe you're trying to play the game hoping that your life gets better and you're able to catch up. So a lot of people have different reasons why they do it. But now you know what you're doing. Now it's intentional what you're doing. You see what I'm saying? So Unfortunately, like I said, state of New Jersey favors tenants. A lot of states favor tenants, and Daphne, that might be the reason. They might have said, she might have said, your tenant might have said, hey, single mother, right? No job, winter time. That's what happened to me, by the way. I'm telling you what happened to me. Single mother, no job, winter time. And judge says, oh, sure, stay there until winter is over. Don't worry about it. Landlord doesn't need the money. Right? That's pretty much how I felt with that decision. Yep. Daphne says had disability too. Heather says utter and publish. Sorry, I lost you. What do you want me to publish? Are you typing something or are you just twirling around? I'm not sure what you're doing. You're making me dizzy, Heather. All right. Meredith, I don't see you. Chad, I don't see you. Peter, I don't see you. Let's see, who else? Sabrina, always like somewhere around the world. Flavio, I kind of see you. Oh, David is still here. All right. What's up, David? Like every time I switch from one screen to the other, David just disappears. So that's funny. All right. Who else? Okay, everybody else is already good. I tell Flavio I see him. He walks away. Look at that. Flavio, come back. Chad, I see you. Carlos, great. Mina, great. All right. Oh, utter and publish is the charge for. Okay, got it. If you guys didn't see it. Yeah, Gil, I see you. You don't have to open your eyes. All right, so this is what Heather just wrote, so you guys see it. For bad checks. Okay, okay. You guys and these backgrounds. Do you guys know that the backgrounds make you disappear once in a while? Mina, Meredith, Flavio. Backgrounds make you disappear. It is cool, but make you disappear. And if I don't see you, it doesn't count for your hours. Wait. Sorry, before I move forward, because I'm going to give you a break right after this one. Heather, I'm not understanding. It's not a personal experience, but you're talking about an ex that did it all the time? If it's an ex, how is that not a personal experience? I don't know what you guys do in Texas, but when I think about an ex, it's somebody I used to be with. So it's a personal experience. Oh, meaning you didn't do it. Oh, okay, got it. I don't know. It could be a Texas thing. I don't know. Like, it's an ex. Like, just, it's an open relationship. That's why we don't call it, you know. All right. Sorry. You said you keep paying for the debt they incurred. What do you mean? You're paying for... I'm not understanding. You're paying for what your ex did? Not understanding here. Sorry. Joint account. Gotcha. So it is a personal experience. Definitely personal. Oh, Chad. Okay. Still became a personal experience. Wow, that is personal. I don't know if you guys noticed, guys, real quick. But Chad said, that's my ex-wife, and he bounced. Like he's no longer on camera. Suffer. Daphne, the new word of the century, entanglements. Yeah. Jonathan, 1 year living in Texas and I want it out. Okay. Does anybody know what an entanglement is? That's a new way to say potential affair. All right, let's go. Last section, then I'll give you a break. Here we're talking, we're on page, sorry, it's on the right-hand side on top, where we talk about late payments. What is this page? 170. Okay, 170 on the right-hand side on top, we talk about late payments. That means you're paying late, right? So when do you think, guys, when do you think you're paying late? Let me know. When do you think rent is late? When do you think rent is late? We don't want you to stay. Wow. Jonathan's a nice guy, Heather. All right. The day after due date, creates the grace period at the first. Whatever the contract says, 5 days after the rent due date. Let me switch this. So 5 days, depending on lease, the day after it's due. Okay. 7 days. Talia, 7 days after due date. All right. Due date is due date, period. Okay? So if it's due after that, it's late, period. What I might give you is a grace period. So, Talia, if anything, that would be a grace period. The way you worded, like a few of you did with the 5 days, the way you worded is you're saying 5 days after the due date. No. Because if I say 5 days after the due date, then when is it due? 5 days later, right? What it is you have a due date and you might have a grace period of 5 days or 7 days or more. A grace period where they allow you to pay with penalty free. Okay, that's called a grace period. Now here's the thing. When we talk about late payments, when is the rent due? The rent is due on the first of the month. Always. First of the month. Okay? Now, unless you rented on the 15th and you clearly said that the month starts. So when I say first of the month, we're not talking about the day one, right? We're talking about whatever your month is. So let's say you rent on the 15th today, and your bill is going to be every 15th. Then when is it due? That first day of the month, which is the 15th for you, right? What I might say is you got 5 days later to pay. That's called a grace period, up to 5 days to pay penalty free. Beyond the 5th day, you're late, like penalty late. You were late already in the grace period, but after 5 days, it's penalty late. So I can charge you a penalty. Okay? I don't even know what to say. Like they're having fun. All right, so back to this. So what you need to remember, if you are late, then I can charge a penalty. If you are late. When are you late? On the first day of the month, right? Whatever month you guys determine to be the period. So if it's on the, let's say the first of every month, calendar first, right? Or if it's the first of the month of, let's say today. So whatever your period is. But there's a few people that have an exception. So when you say 5 days or when you say 7 days, remember, the only exception to this rule, to the first of the month, the only exception is for senior citizens receiving Social Security, old age, railroad retirement pensions, or any government pensions. These people must be given a 5 calendar day grace period free of late charges. So when is the rent due? First of the month. Okay? So remember this for state exam. When is the rent due? First of the month, unless the contract states otherwise. Which that will most likely be the question. Unless the contract states otherwise, when is the rent due? That's most likely how it's going to be formulated. And the answer is first of the month. Okay. Now, what he might also say is that the contract is due on the first of the month except for what kind of people or what kind of tenants. and then they'll throw one of these in the answers. These people must be given a 5-day grace period. My leases all state 5 days grace period. Why? Because I don't want to have to figure out who's on Social Security and who's not, who's on disability, who's not. Do you see what I'm saying? So I make it standard so everybody gets the same benefit. That's all it is. All right? Heather knows I'm reading the message. Oh, guys. Amazing. All right, you guys good? So, I'm going to skip this part because we already addressed it. Possession is common sense. Improvements. We're going to go for break, and we're going to come back to improvements. It's now 7:36, guys. I'm going to give you, we're going to start at 7:45. I'm going to give you an extra few minutes. I just have to do something as well. We'll be back to improvements. 7:45.